So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to part one of our Courageous Leader series. So my name's Leah. I'm a money wellness coach and I work with creative business owners to normalize the idea of talking about money. And I'm also really interested in helping to unlock blocks so that people can get better with money and consequently look at making more, because that's ultimately what we all want. So today I'm really excited that joining me is Luke Grace, who is a transformational therapist and a coach, and he's also a really good friend of mine. So welcome, Luke. Can you tell us a bit more about you and what you do?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. So yeah, thanks for getting me on this call. As you say, I work as a transformational coach. There's a lot of coaches out there who kind of bracket themselves under different titles and headings. For me, I've noticed that when people get into the self-development world, often they're either getting stuck in working through the past. So they'll go the therapy route and they dig and dig and dig and they're trying to clean out that wound that's there. Or there's people who have gone more for the traditional kind of coaching mindset, sort of positive mentality route, without cleaning out the wound to start off with. So people are either stuck in sort of this therapy mindset, looking at the past, trying to clean things out, or they've not done that at all and they've sewn up this wound and it started to get, as it were, infected, and they're not understanding on both sides of this why things aren't moving. And I've found through the experience that I've had in clinic and working with people that for those that are working hard, a couple of simple changes in perspective and subtle changes in action can really unlock a lot. So that's what I tend to do. I tend to work with people, and it can be over creating many different things, whether it's things within relationship, their personal life, really just creating that change in state and action for them. It's phenomenally good work. I love it. It's great.
So you mentioned that you do work in various different areas of people's lives, but today we're going to be going through the process involved in unlocking our creativity in kind of a broad sense, but kind of with our own inner passions or talents when it comes to wanting to maybe turn them into businesses. So this is a 4-part series that we've decided to put together, and we're going to discuss how we can access creativity and start making money off of our passions. So we're going to be through the series exploring how we can discover, propel, nurture, and celebrate these passions, and how we can then turn them into profitable, and I also always like to say sustainable businesses, because I don't really think they can be separated. So today we're going to start at the natural beginning point, which is going to be discovery. So maybe Luke, you can start talking a bit about how we came up with this idea. So we decided on this a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, we've kind of been working together anyway. So, we're very different personalities. Okay, you're very organized, okay, very practical. You've got things just sorted out and structured, which makes it perfect for obviously the work that you do, guiding people through their money blocks, because a lot of that I think is about organization with what you've been telling me and what we've been doing. I can definitely see how organization or lack of it is holding me back. I complement that with sort of generally being a little bit more kind of creative, going into things that are a bit more abstract. And as we were kind of going through the process of helping each other through our blocks, we kind of came to understand that these 4 points, are the inevitable stages that you go through really when creating anything. And as we were looking to launch individual projects, individual groups, and we saw this pattern come up, kind of realized that this would be the perfect thing to talk to people about, very candidly, very openly, as two people that are going through the process themselves and really learning a lot. I have a theory that I don't think these processes will ever change. I think it will just be the speed at which we go through them will be so much quicker as we kind of get that experience.
Totally. We were talking ourselves as well, how we're going through this process right now within this series, but also regularly with our work. We're constantly kind of trying to nurture our talents and also what we discover new ones, try and figure out how to turn them into profitable ideas, if so to speak, and then how to nurture them so that they can actually be fulfilling, but also the importance of celebration. So I know we're going to be spending a whole episode talking about celebration at the end, because that sometimes is a missed part of the process. So today we're focusing, as we said, on discovery, or on the discovery phase itself. And it's also worth mentioning that through this discovery phase and this series, we are discovering. So it is a bit of a process for us. So I feel a little bit vulnerable in that, and I feel good acknowledging that and excited about how this is going to evolve as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. All four of these phases, I know I've definitely got various different challenges with each one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be learning through doing, which I think is probably the biggest thing. That idea of massive imperfect action, I know that's something you talk about a lot. It's going to be the biggest thing to take from this, and the biggest thing for me, myself, to experience. So yeah, it's fantastic.
So what is it, who are we appealing to here? I think that's the next step. Who are the people who are going to get something out of hearing what we have to say?
I think with this first phase of discovery, for me, it comes down to people who they have a yearning to want to do something that maybe they think of as being more. Mm-hmm. And that process of, or even that mindset of thinking, I want to do more, can also put them in a mindset of thinking that they're not enough. Okay, can put them in that mindset of thinking, well, because I want more, then where I'm coming from is a place of lack, or it puts me in coming from a place of lack. So the block that I see for a lot of people when talking about this discovery phase is that essence of being enough. So it's for those people that they're wanting more. I think with you wanting to understand how to make that really practical and make it something that's going to really support them, and that's a safe place to go because they've got the strategies in place. But it's those people who they're questioning where they are at the moment in a very earnest way, and they genuinely want to make that step and take that change.
Definitely. And I think we've spoken a little bit about this before as well, how yes, I'm a money wellness coach. Yes, my focus is on how we can talk about money. But today, in a way, we're actually going to be consciously not talking about money, not so much the money side, because during the discover phase, we've decided that that's not conducive. That's not something that's actually helpful in the process of discovering, because it can add a lot of blocks. So we're going to be talking about the concept of value, but not so much money, the monetary value that we're putting on things. So I think my intention today is that I really want us to help incite some of those creative thoughts in other people and help them start thinking about how they can turn ideas that they have or talents that they have that have been maybe hidden away into their own business ideas, and helping them kind of create those to be a different level to where maybe they are now.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Cool. All right. So where do we start?
I think if I could, I'd like to lead with that concept of enoughness.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean, enoughness, it comes into so many things, right? So even that point where you feel fear at doing something new, people believe that fear is the problem. It's not. Okay, when you have that feeling of enoughness underneath everything else, the fear is still going to come up, but you have an answer for it straight away. Yeah. So the question is, often, and we've already said that it's not going to be focused on money, what we're talking about. Often people will say, if you had all the money in the world, what would you choose to do? I really don't think that is the right question. I think the question is, if you really felt enough, if you really had the acceptance for yourself and the respect for the person that you are and can become, what would you do? People also say that there's a fear of failure. I guess that's a fear of being viewed by people outside of you as something that is less than. And again, that comes back to that feeling of enough.
The way I see that presenting in the work I do and clients I work with is in the form of procrastination. So you end up kind of doing everything but the thing that you need to do to stop actually having to sit there and assess that you're worried about maybe failing.
Yeah. And then you bring in perfectionism, right? So again, enoughness, it would be another part of that would be perfectionism. People say progress, not perfection. I really believe it's a case of like excellence. Excellence, not perfection. You bring the best that you are at any moment, except that's what it is, which is, again, exactly what we're doing right here on this call, which we spoke about before this call. You bring the excellence in that moment. You don't worry about perfection. You embrace that as that is enough and stepping onto something new. To talk about kind of enoughness in a visual sense, you know, an acorn by itself is perfect. Okay, it is perfect, but within that acorn, there's the potential for an oak tree. Okay, within then going to an oak tree, there's the potential for an oak forest. There's then potential for all this life to be sustained. But if the acorn started to think about all those things that it could be, and then it became things that it should be, then suddenly the acorn doesn't feel enough. Where in actual fact, the acorn's perfect. But this is also where this discovery phase, it has to be fun. It has to be one of that kind of like childlike excitement. You know, when my daughter comes up to me and she hands me a picture, like objectively, you could say that's maybe not the best picture. Okay, I love it. It's still going to go on the fridge or go on the wall. But what's so interesting about that is the excitement with which she wants to show it to me and she wants to share it with me. Because number one, it's excellence, not perfection. She's expressing herself in the best way possible she can in that moment, but she absolutely feels enough. And she absolutely is excited to then do the next picture and get the next idea for how the next rainbow looks and the next bunny looks and all the rest of it. So that playfulness is so key. It's so key. And again, coming back to those questions about kind of what would you do if you had enough money? What would you do if you couldn't fail? What would you do if you were enough? The right answer is always a few answers beyond the first one. You know, it's a little bit like if somebody says to me, oh, why do you love your wife? And initially I might say some quite superficial things. Oh, you know, she's kind and she's this and she's that. But 5 or 6 sort of descriptions down the line, I'm going to get to the heart of it, right? Yeah. And it's going to touch me as I say it, because it's going to come from here.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me to the next point that I would say about when people are really trying to discover things or discover what they want to do and create and share with the world. It's selfish. Yeah, it comes from here. Yeah. And as somebody who placated and was always trying to keep a good balance with every dynamic that was going on when I was younger, I can tell you that doing things for other people generally doesn't work out so well. So even for those people that are listening right now and they're thinking they want to get into a business or want to create something that is based on service, it's very important to understand that it's for you, but you're making it about other people.
Totally. And I know this is something we've spoken about a lot because that's my place. That's where I come from. I struggle with perfectionism. I want everything to be ready to present exactly perfectly. But then the other is that idea of wanting to serve, wanting to help other people. And sometimes that in itself can get in the way of what I'm actually trying to do from that pure place. So I completely identify with that.
Yeah. I spent a long time when first working with clients in clinic, trying to empower many people, as indeed I was trying to empower myself, over the term selfish. And I went through loads and loads of different kind of, is the best word to be sort of empowered over being selfish or self-obsessed or all of these different things, which I found generally were quite negative and I couldn't retrain my thought process on. And as soon as I switched it to being self-engaged, that unlocked everything for me. When you're coming from a place, as you're discovering what you want to create, when you're coming from a place that you're self-engaged, you're connected with this part of you, you bring that out and you share it with people. You know, there's going to be some people who are going to jump on it. It's absolutely what they want. There's going to be some people who they're not as interested, and that's fine, because you're sharing it, first of all, for yourself, but you're making it about the people that are interested in it.
Yeah.
But when it's coming from here and it's self-engaged, whatever it is that you're doing, it's inviting other people to become self-engaged in their very specific way as well. And that's the liberating thing about it.
Yeah. Can I just talk a bit about so instantly what comes to mind is some clients. So I think, for example, musicians. So if someone has a talent, a musical talent, when they're sharing their music, sometimes it's easy to try and shift your creativity into a frame that you think is going to be mainstream or is going to be digestible by other people. So what you're saying is it should come more from what is it you want to create? What's the music you want to make?
Yeah, absolutely. And within that as well, it's interesting because I'm all about perspective, right? And some people, their perspective on when you shift for other people, they would say that, oh, they're selling out. And we'll talk about this in future phases about authenticity and how that can sometimes be a block to kind of expressing yourself. But if you just think of being self-engaged, the concept of selling out or placating or accommodating for other people in a way that ultimately compromises you never comes into it. And that's why this is the foundation point. Self-engagement and being enough, coming from that place, whatever you create using, as we've spoken about it, imperfect action, which again we'll go into in the future, it's not going to fail. It's not going to fail into ultimately guiding you into that thing that you really do want to do, even though it may take a few levels of filtering things out as you express yourself in that way, because it's a relearning process. You know, we're relearning how to do that drawing that my daughter does with me and share it with the world and be excited about it. You know, during the discovery phase, that really is the two key things, as I've said, you know, self-engagement and being enough. And then we get to the concept of value, right?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, when it comes to value, so if you're trying to create that, so say going back to your analogy with your daughter's picture, if in that moment she's trying to think of what's going to please you, that's one side, but then the other is, well, what about the financial side? What if she's trying to sell it?
Yeah.
So it's so much harder. It's really hard when we're starting to try and think about putting a price on our creativity. And sometimes that in itself also influences what we're actually trying to do when we're expressing our creativity, because we're trying to think about how we're going to be able to make it viable, how we're going to be able to attach a price to it that people are then going to pay. And that can stilt the process in a lot of ways. So we've spoken, I know, a lot about that as well, that idea that the value of something, it's not just about what's within us, it's about what other people are going to attach value to. So at this stage, again, I really think it's good that we're keeping it separate from talking, because I mean, we have lots of tools and techniques that we can use and start incorporating when we start starting to put our self-worth into play. So we want to start thinking about what we're worth and what our value should be attached to certain parts of our products or talents. But in a way, I think, erring away from that is what's going to help us to be our authentic creative self at heart. So, for example, if I'm creating a course, I do create a lot of content in courses. If I'm trying to think of hitting a certain target or pricing something at a certain point, then I take away all of the value I have in, sorry, I'm literally rambling now.
No, I totally understand. I totally understand. And it's happened to me so many times when I'm creating something, where I can start creating, and when I start to ask that question about money too soon, it loses momentum. I have to have fallen in love with the value that I'm giving before I can put a price on it.
Yeah.
And it is that thing that even when we're talking about making it engaged, you make it for yourself first. You have to love what it is, and then you do have to look at what it is and start talking to the people that you're trying to connect with. At which point then people make the mistake of thinking that you're making it for them. You're not. You're now making it about them. And it's after you've fallen in love with what it is and you see that value and you feel it intrinsically, you have to connect in with that first before you then make it about them, and then you put a price on. The service and the product, whatever it may be, and I hate both those words, but the service and the product comes first for you. It then comes first for them, and then you put the value on it. You know, but if you bring in, or you put the price on it, but if you bring in the price too soon, I've had it happen so many times. I've had amazing ideas come forward. I'm like, oh, I could do this. I could run this group. I could share this. I could make this course. And it's going really well. It's almost like I can't write fast enough. And then I start thinking, okay, well, I need to make this much a month in order to cover this. And I need this for my family, and I need that. So how much I'm going to charge here? And it just stalls it before I've got to that place of being truly in love with the creation, because I've not yet even got really down to creating it. You know?
Totally. Yeah. So if we're thinking about value first, when we're moving from that place of value, technically the money should then take care of itself, because it will flow more naturally, because one, you'll start to feel your value as well when you've created something and it is your best work, because you haven't inhibited yourself with boundaries around its value. the ironic thing is that then it presents itself with far more value, and then you'll also feel stronger about what you're actually pricing things at, because you will know that that is the best work that you possibly could have come up with. So it kind of
absolutely and knowing that transition to go from a place of value to a place of price is big as well. I know you've spoken about and this is going to be a big one when it comes to how do you charge for your product, how do you eventually charge, and that's making the switch from providing value to asking for money from people. And I see a lot of people as well who are trying to be very authentic, and they'll refuse to do that because they feel as though it takes something away. But there's a point where it's really important to do that, but it's also really important not to do it during the discovery phase.
Yeah. So we need to keep things unclear when it comes to price, and we need to keep things much more fluid so that we can just explore and be, as you said, be playful, have fun with it, and be a bit curious. Yeah,
absolutely. That's it. And it's that self-engagement that allows you to follow that thing of self-value. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, okay, we've got our foundation there with discovery. So you're probably wondering what happens next. So once we've got our discovery juices flowing, we've got some creative ideas there. The next stage is what we've come to call propel. So this is kind of what we're looking at for our next part of this series, which will be next week. And we're going to be looking around unlocking your creativity, putting it into action. So at the moment, we've got ideas. So I don't know if you want to set some kind of homework or anything when it comes to some things that people could maybe do, but we could potentially put some journaling questions or something down at the bottom of the chat to come up with some ideas so that you're starting to get that discovery phase going. But a lot of us get stuck. I know this is something I used to suffer from a lot, in the idea of the creation process, like that actual phase. So the discovery phase, where you're just constantly coming up with ideas. So it's like, how do we then transition all of those ideas that we just keep pushing out into actual physical reality? So the next step is propel. It's about looking into how we can have that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking that thing from an idea into physical reality, for most people, I certainly know for myself, can be the most challenging. All that momentum builds up. You think you've got it, it's on a roll. How do you keep that going? How do you keep that going from here, from the page, to actually being able to offer it to somebody? It's a really exciting phase. It's the liberation that you feel as you go through it is huge. For me, the fear before I find that liberation can be pretty big as well. But it's a phenomenal stage. I love it. And it's the bit that's the most enjoyable for me when I'm working with people, to see them go through, because it's suddenly, I can do whatever I want. I can create that thing. It's going to be good.
Exciting. So before we finish up, is there anything that you want to encourage people to do if they want to find out more about you and how you work?
Yeah, absolutely. If people want to get in touch, if people have any questions, if anything that I said, about people being stuck in the past doing the therapy work, or people being too focused on just trying to feel good, okay, and that causing problems and creating blocks, if that's something that somebody's experienced, get in touch. At the moment, online, the best way to do that is just through my personal Facebook group, as other things are getting built. And equally, if that concept of self-engagement, if that concept of being enough, if there's something there that kind of resonates that you want to explore a bit more, please reach out. We can organize a call, talk about what's going on, and very quickly ask some questions that are going to result in some changes.
Excellent. And if you'd like to go a little bit deeper in exploring your money blocks or business blocks, if there's some real obstacles that you're finding already that you really want to combat, feel free to contact me as well. We can start looking at a bit of a clear plan of action, some of your goals, and start looking at how we can change that for you. So I will be offering a free coaching session. So you're welcome to contact me through direct message on Facebook or Instagram to find out more, and I can send you the links.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching. As I said, next session, we're going to be talking about Propel. So I am really excited to hear some comments on how you all found this session and how it feels to start looking into the discovery phase of unlocking your creativity. And thanks so much, Luke, for joining me.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been fantastic. Cheers.
Cheers.